We've been talking about meeting God and experiencing God and praising God by His name. We talked about God whose name is Elohim as He was introduced to us. Now we're looking at His name Elyon, God, the Most High God. The first meeting of God by this name was Abram in chapter 14. Abraham in chapter 14, meeting God by this name Elyon, the Most High God. His position over us is supreme. Now, what's so interesting, back in chapter 13, we have a beautiful story of Abraham and his nephew Lot, who had already begun their journey to the land of Canaan, and God had promised Abraham that He would give him all this land. Yet, Lot and the herdsmen of Abraham, their flocks had grown so much and expanded so much that they were at odds with each other. They weren't getting along. So Abraham approached Lot and said, "Hey, we're brethren. We ought not to be having this strife between us. And so I tell you what, you just look out there and you decide which way you want to go." And interesting, in Genesis 13, verse 11, it says, "So Lot chose for himself all the Jordan Valley, and Lot journeyed east, and they separated from each other. And Lot went to where Sodom and Gomorrah was, and there he pitched his tent toward them." He made a choice. Now, Abram had the right to make the choice, but he waived that choice. One of the most read devotions in all of Christian history is Oswald Chambers, My Utmost for His Highest. Yesterday's devotion dealt with this very subject, and I haven't read any of those specifically through these pastor chats, but I've got to read this one from yesterday, because as we're considering God as Elyon, we're asking the question, who's making the choices for me in my life? Am I choosing, or am I allowing God to choose? And so listen to this wonderful devotion, Oswald Chambers, yesterday, and it says, as soon as you begin to live the life of faith in God, fascinating and physically gratifying possibilities will open up before you. These things are yours by right. But if you're living the life of faith, you will exercise your right to waive your rights and let God make your choice for you. Now, God sometimes allows you to get into a place of testing where even your own welfare will be the appropriate thing to consider. As we're dealing with coronavirus, I could say, well, I can't get out, I can't go visit people, I can't go to church, I can't do this or that, simply because I got to choose for my right, I got to choose for myself. And so I can't go to the mission field and serve the Lord. I expose my children to dangers that, well, I just really don't think I should allow them to be exposed to. I have a right to live here in America. But if we really, as Oswald Chambers is saying here, come to that place to live the life of faith, it's going to be different. Because if you live the life of faith, you'll joyfully waive your right and allow God to make your choice for you. This is the discipline God uses to transform the natural into the spiritual through obedience to His voice. Now, whenever our right becomes the guiding factor of our lives, it dulls our spiritual insight. The greatest enemy of the life of faith in God is not sin, but good choices which are not quite good enough. The good is always the enemy of the best. In this passage, it would seem the wisest thing in the world for Abram to choose to go what he wanted to have. It was his right, and the people around him would not even consider him to be a fool for not choosing. Now, many of us do not continue to grow spiritually because we prefer to choose on the basis of our rights instead of relying on God to make the choice for us. And we're going to have to learn to walk according to the standard which has its eyes focused on God. God says to us, as He did to Abram, walk before me. You see, we make our choices sometimes thinking they're right, but the Bible says there is a way that seems right to a man, but the end thereof is the way of death. We waive our right to make the choice. We let God make our choices for us. He calls the shot. He's Elyon. And oh, I'm telling you, it's a joyful experience to see where God might lead you. Now, the truth is, someone who says the safest place in all the world is the will of God. Well, the truth is, it might be the most dangerous and unsafe place in all the world, but it's the best place because God is there with you. He'll go into the fire and the furnace. He'll go through the flood and the river with you. And so I'm encouraging you today. Make Elyon the Most High God of your life. Let Him make your choices for you, and what a difference it will make. God bless.